Aha! There we go. Hi, folks. How are you? Sorry about that. I had to reboot at the last minute, and I'm not sure why. Hopefully, old Bessie here is going to hold in for another hour. I noticed. I think I'm going to have to talk to our tech guy because there's been a lot of glitches lately, where the screens are freezing up and things. I might have done something wrong, or maybe it's just approaching the end of its useful life. I don't know. I'm glad you're here. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to another hour of good nature. There's a couple little show and tell things I wanted to share with you before we launch into tonight's chat. First of all, Susie, you gave me this months ago, and it worked its way down to the bottom of my black backpack. So I thought I'd lost it because I looked for it and I just didn't see it. This is really cool. It is a compostable plastic bag. And we see this term compostable thrown around a lot. I see it on takeout food containers on those rare occasions when I don't clean my plate. But there's a lot of things that are being marketed as compostable, but then they have to be sent to a commercial facility or a place that has extremely high temperatures to get that material to break down. But this, not only does it say compostable, but it says home compostable. So I'm going to try this now that I found it again. And in fact, I kind of wonder if it's starting to break down. It has a sort of a funny feel to it. And it could be that it has gone and, started to break down there in my backpack, along with, I think I've got an apple down there too that I need to fish out. I also found your Christmas present in there. So thank you very much, or your Christmas present to me. So thank you very much again for those wonderful bird socks. Yeah, look for it. Well, I did wear them, so now they're in the laundry, but I will wear them again sometime and show them. Jerry sent me these really cool, it's like socks to bird by. They had all kinds of North American species on them. So anyway, I don't know if this is gonna, become a bigger trend, but it's also, not US. This was shipped from Austria or made in Austria. So I don't know if it'll make its way here or not, but I'm going to give it a try, and I will give you updates too. I'll take a picture as it starts out, and then as the summer goes on, I'll see if it really does break down, and I'll let you know.
That was from the World Bird
The
group.
shirts, right?
Yes. And I got another one, so I can experiment too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to put it in whole because I think that's what the average consumer would do.
Right.
But if it starts having trouble or it doesn't seem to be breaking down at all, what I do with a lot of paper and things that I put in my compost, I tear it or shred it or cut it so that's in smaller pieces, so there's more edges.
Right.
Those things breaking down. Yeah, so that was one thing. Another thing, our buddies Keith and Rebecca Filato have been out at the Magic Marsh up there in Lake County, and have got some really cool footage here, some photos as well as some video. So we're gonna do this screen share here. Let's see, we'll share our sound, and we are going to see if we remember how to do this because it's been a whole week. There we go. Move this window away from the shared application. Your screen sharing. Okay, so with any luck at all, we are seeing sandhill cranes. So here, Keith and Rebecca were out, and they happened upon not two little orphans, but actually a family. These are the youngsters. Baby sandhill cranes are called colts, And I was told one time, I thought this was kind of a strange name. And somebody said, well, it's because they've got those long legs, the way a, a young horse, a colt horse would have. I wondered, what is this one eating here? I was trying to see if it was, if there were insects there or some seeds or exactly what. And, like a good parent, I think that might be mom. I have a feeling dad is off to the right. But just kind of give it a little check in there to see, make sure baby's not putting something it shouldn't in its mouth. But just such a peaceful setting, and I love it when you see good parenting. It's nice. I'm going to shut up for a second here. Adorable. Now, that's not all. Here's a still of the little family. Yeah, having some snacks there in the marsh. And then this is a cerulean warbler, and Keith mentioned in his email that there were about 15 people looking at this bird. As much as I love looking at birds and trees, I love too watching the people watching the birds. I have a series, I found an old camera of mine, and by old, we're not talking about like the Kodak Pocket Instamatic from the 70s. That one's long gone, but this is a Nikon that I had back in the early 2000s. I'm pretty sure that's where my photos of birders are from our Florida vacations. I just loved watching people, they'd be lined up with their binoculars and their spotting scopes and their cameras with the giant lenses. And then not only were they watching the birds, but then they were also, debating, especially Florida shorebirds. There can be some confusion down there. And it was such fun to watch the birders watching the birds. But this is a really cool find here. This is as you said, a cerulean warbler. Cerulean, means blue. And this is a bird that passes through here on its way north. So let's see, get this to zoom in. There we go. How about that? Just hanging out up there in the trees. I don't know how many of you have been out birding or were out birding earlier in the month. I may have grumped a little bit about this last week. But the trees have leafed out earlier than we're used, or at least I'm used to seeing. Oftentimes when the spring bird count happens at the beginning of May, and the oak leaves are still tiny little things. A lot of trees, the leaves were much larger, which it's good for the birds because it gives them cover. There's probably more insects up there available for them, but it makes it harder for the birders because the leaves get in the way. From here on out, now that our trees are almost 100% leafed out, it is going to make birding a lot more difficult until we get into fall and those leaves come down again. But super cool shot here. This is another favorite bird. This is a green heron. And Keith and Rebecca, I love how you captured these somewhat elusive birds. The warblers, they're hard to get to sit still. The green herons, I've seen them described as skulking. So, like they're kind of hunched down and they're peering amid the vegetation there. They're looking for fish, crayfish, sometimes big bugs. If they see like a nice juicy dragonfly nymph or something, they'll go after that too. But they kind of skulk their way around in the tall stuff there. And this is a gorgeous capture. You can see too, the colors on these birds. They've got they've got the greenish, which it kind of depends on how the light is hitting the feathers. But then look at these brightly colored feet that they have that have just a tiny little bit of webbing to them, so that if they're not able to find, say, a convenient log like this to step on and they have to go in the mud, they're not going to sink quite as far down because of that extra bit of skin there on the toes. Whoop! I don't know if that was a I see you and you see me kind of a look, but they do have that crest or that crown up on top of their head too. Gorgeous birds, really cool. And this was another amazing caption. Now, this is a bird you probably would recognize if you were to see it flying in the sky. It has bold white stripes on the underside of its wings. It makes a very characteristic meep sound. That's not the meep of the woodcock, though. This is the meep of the nighthawk. In the daytime, they can be really hard to spot because look at these cryptic colors here. They almost match, the pattern almost matches the lichens on the bark where this one was resting. True to their name, nighthawk, they are nocturnal. So they spend a lot of time resting in the daytime. I'm told that here in St. Charles, and I just heard one the other night, they've been out foraging at dusk. I've been told that they nest just up the street here on a gravel roof of an old school building. They like that sort of environment for building their nests or nesting. I don't know how much effort they put into building it. It's kind of a depression with some rocks, but super cool bird and very hard to find sitting in a tree like this. So great picture there as well. Got another aquatic bird family. This is a shot of some geese resting. And then here's, I love this. This is like a daycare. This is something that we see our goose friends doing quite a bit. You know, around here in St. Charles, I've been sort of surprised at the smallness of the broods. I've been seeing families of 3 and a 4 and a 5, and I'm accustomed to seeing 10 or 11 or 12. Well, here it looks like they were all pretty prolific, but this is something geese will do. They're able to take advantage of their numbers, and they will combine families, and they'll go out. Sometimes this will give some of the parents a break. They might decide to go wander off for a little bit on their own. One time I saw, I think it was 30, I forget if it was 32 or 36, and it was somewhere in that range of over, you know, close to 3 dozen birds, and there was only 2 parents with them. So, you know, those 2 geese were filling in for the other ones. Later on, in that same area came back and there was a whole bunch of adult geese along with the youngsters. So I think this is just a little cooperative arrangement they have, although I think the parents had yet to have their day off or their day away here. There's quite a few adults. But look at all these little ones. I think, let's see, I think we're at the end of those. So Keith and Rebecca, thanks very much for sharing what you've been seeing up in Lake County. I'm going to stop this share. And then I'm going to see if I can figure out how to do another one. I got a fun little email. Let's try this. Let me move this box out of the way. You see what we've got here? We've got a cicada cookbook. This was a PDF. It's nothing new. In fact, I kind of think I might have gotten a copy of this back in 2007 too. It's down here. It says copyright 2004. But and if anybody would like this, just let me know. It'd be an easy forward via email. But here's a little guide to entomophagy, or the eating of bugs, and all the wonderful things that you can gain. Talks about the practice around the world and the proteins and the fats, and this gives many examples of people who eat bugs. But let's forward to the nitty gritty. Shanghai cicadas, cicada dumplings, southern cicada tartlets, emergence cookies. I think I skipped a couple here. The simple cicada, where you're really just sautéing them, sizzling chili cicadas if you like it spicy. And then here we've got a couple of desserts. We've got banana cicada bread, some chocolate chip trillers, and chocolate covered cicadas, cicada rhubarb pie. So if if you're feeling a little guilty about eating your desserts, you think maybe you should have a little protein benefit from them. So it's not just fun, it's not just sugar. You can incorporate some cicadas. I think we're at the end. So yeah, let me know. Shoot me an email or say something in the chats, and we'll get that sent out to you. Myself, I any cicadas. I feel kind of bad for them being eaten after 17 years underneath the ground. And we could explore all kinds of philosophical points here, but I know there is a lot of talk online. I've joined a couple of cicada Facebook groups, and there's a lot of people who like them and want to eat them. There's a lot of people who don't like them and are eager to capture them for people who do want to eat them. One thing, if you are or you know someone who's interested in eating cicadas, it's very important to get them before their shells harden up, when they're still in that white, or what we call the teneral phase, right after they molt out of their skin that last time, and start crawling up the trees. I still am saying that we're here in Eastern King County anyway. I don't think we're going to see them in any great numbers. And again, I hope that we're wrong. But as far as the periodical brood goes, brood 13, I just don't know that we're going to see a lot. Now, I was somewhere today, a woman said that she saw a lot of little holes in the ground over at Nelson Lake Marsh at Dick Young Forest Preserve. So that might be worth checking out if you're in the area. I did talk to someone else who specifically went there in 2007 and said they didn't see many. So, the way these things work, if they weren't there in 2007, the chances of them being present 17 years later are small, because they just don't move around very much. So cicada countdown continues. I think I saw tonight the overnight low here is going to be like 49. That's chilly. These insects, they're looking for a ground temperature that's in the mid 60s. So this little cool spell that we're in, if they are indeed in the area waiting to come up, is going to slow some of them down. I'm seeing, though, other places in DuPage County where they're already starting to see some good numbers. So we'll see what happens. Before we get into more slides, I want to show you. I tell you, folks, the tree is taunting me. Can you see what this is? Here's one. Here's two. 2 different days last week. I'm walking to work, and what do I find? But butternut shells, that white walnut that is somewhere in my neighborhood. People are still finding the nuts, or I shouldn't say people, this was probably a squirrel or something that opened these up, but they were laying right on the sidewalk. And they're from 2 different nuts, and they were found about a block apart. I gotta figure this out. It's starting to drive me nuts. But butternuts / white walnuts, they're back on my list. Speaking of, let's go back to our screen shares here. Let's go from Keith's photos. Let's go over here. I updated my white walnut / butternut map. So the first ones I found are marked in red. And this is only since I should mention last year. I have a whole jar of shells at home from years past, going all the way back, I would say 10 years or more. I started finding them around my yard. But this was from 2023. This is 8th Street. This is 6th Street. This is Baker Field Park, where I often found them and thought for a while that maybe the tree was hiding in plain sight there, and it's not, but you can see there's 2 marks there. Well, then last fall, I found one here on 6th Street at Horn. I found another one in my driveway. And then the blue marks these 2 most recent ones. So they were, about a block away from each other, but they're still all in this general Davis School vicinity. I'm thinking the tree it's got to be in somebody's yard, maybe a backyard somewhere over here. This one is puzzling. This one is a pretty good distance away from these other. Anyway, the mystery continues. And then I thought, if you did tune in last week and we had to take our little weather related interruption while I scurried inside because I was at home, I wasn't here. Had I been here in the office, I would have been able to enjoy the benefits of this new phone system we have, which repeatedly will warn us of impending doom. When I came into the office the next day, I had to delete a whole bunch of these messages that were, talking about the severe thunderstorm. Although, really after I moved inside, the wind died down pretty fast. I probably could have stuck it out there, but why risk it, right? All right. These next few photos come courtesy of Jerry. They concern this bird here, the Baltimore Oriole. This is a bird that is well known for its pendulous nest. But Jerry, as you remarked in your email, it is truly astounding how these birds can build these things. And they have no fingers, they have no opposable thumbs. They have a bill and they have some feet. But here is a female Baltimore Oriole. I love this capture here. She is shredding plant fibers and pulling them away so that she can use them to build her house. I looked up, I got out here the good old Birder's Handbook. I don't think it's in print anymore. It's certainly not a field guide, but it is what you look up when you want to know who does the nest building. How long does it take? How many eggs are they going to put in the nest? How long till the young fledge? Got all that kind of data and statistics in here. I was going to pull up Baltimore Oriole, but it looks like my bookmark is gone. Well, oh, anyway, I'll just show you a regular page here. How about if we look at, nope, here we go. Don't need the bookmark. This book goes back to the time. So when I was little, these birds were called Baltimore Orioles. And then there was a time, I don't know if it was the late 80s, the 90s, into the 2000s, the common name was switched from Baltimore Oriole to Northern Oriole. And then time goes on, we learn more about the species. The common name is now back to Baltimore Oriole, but this book goes back to that Northern Oriole. It tells us that the nest is located an average of 15 to 30 feet above the ground, although it can range anywhere from 6 to 60 feet up in a tree. The female is the primary builder of the nest, although she does get some help from the male. They lay an average of 4 to 5 eggs, although 3 to 6 have been recorded. It says monogamous with a question mark. Leave that out there. The female is who incubates the eggs, and they take 12 to 14 days to hatch. And then she will also, with some help from the male, feed those youngsters. The adults eat a lot of fruit and nectar, but also insects. And insects are really what's important during this breeding time because of that fat and that protein. So they, this is a handy little reference they have, and these are really cool pictures, Jerry, because it shows our hardworking mama bird there gathering that nesting material. I was also really happy to see that it's natural materials. She's gonna weave that into a nest that looks like this, but I tell you, so often here by Fox River, we end up seeing things like this, which to me is just so scary. This fishing line could be deadly. They get that wrapped around their neck, their wings, their feet, the babies, all kinds of dire things could happen. In fact, this one, it's here in my office still. It was such a horrifying mix of fishing line, um, plastic shreds, this black plastic here, this white stuff is dental floss. The blue is from a tarp. There is some natural fiber in the center there. And I'm sure the Oriole is thinking, wow, this is tough stuff. My nest is going to be indestructible. And luckily, I did not find any sign of, tragedy, but we certainly have seen that along the Fox River with birds who choose these as nesting materials. So 3 cheers to the bird that you found, Jerry, that it was able to make use of those natural materials. Now, I saw this walking to work the other day, and at first I was thinking Halloween decoration, and then I thought, oh no, somebody's been watching the news, and there have been so many warnings about the cicada apocalypse, cicada-geddon. The recommended practice for young trees, and you can see this is a small tree, so this would apply, to protect it, not so much from the feeding of the cicadas. They do take a little bit of sips of nectar to get them through this last phase of their life, but really the bigger thing that people need to guard against in young trees is the depositing of the eggs. Females will use their ovipositor to make little slits out at the ends of these branches. So by throwing a net over it, that is going to help protect it. So, I didn't look closely at this to see if this is something, made for a tree. It almost seems like it's got a little hem or something on it, like a bag that you throw over a tree. Again, I didn't look too closely, but a lot of people, tree people have said if you need to protect a tree, to invest in tulle. And it's not an investment. They said it's like $1 or something a yard. Oops, hold on, not going to look at that yet. The tulle, the fabric that's used for veils and fancy dresses and stuff, is what's called for if you feel you're in an area that's going to have a lot of cicadas and you feel the need to protect your young trees. That's how you do it. And that's what it looks like. Now we'll see. Maybe these folks, are ahead of the curve. Maybe they know that they had a lot of cicadas. This is just a few blocks from my house, so I don't know. I don't remember cicadas from 2007, but we'll see. Always hopeful. Now, this got popped up there a little bit earlier than I wanted it to, but how many of you last Friday or Saturday night headed out to look at the Northern Lights? So this was a friend who put this on Facebook. This was Friday night, and I saw this and I thought, oh my goodness, I've got to get out. I've got to take some photos. I've seen Aurora Borealis a time or two from our family cabin up in the UP. And it was pretty cool. It was not these purples and oranges and colors like that. It was mostly green and yellow, but it was still pretty cool. It was very active. It was neat to watch. So I saw this, grabbed my camera, my cell phone, went outside, and you can't see the border of the picture. Or I'll even zoom in. This is what I saw. It was just dark. There was a lot of posting about it, and through again Facebook. You can't believe everything you read, but on Facebook, folks said use your night vision setting or your night sight. Different types of cameras have a different label for the nighttime setting. So I did that, and we got a second chance on Saturday night. Supposedly you could see them then as well. So I went out and I tried again, and it did brighten things up to a certain extent. This is Davis School, so this is just a few houses down from where I live. This picture looks a lot brighter than what it actually is, although jeepers, they have got such bright lights on that school. I don't know. They don't point up, but the lights, they're that like almost bluish white part of the spectrum. So there's a considerable amount of glow that spreads away from the building. There's a few little stars and things up here. I guess where people were seeing it. And this, by the way, this is facing north, but this was, I was able to get. I did travel to Saturday night, went out with some of the nature nerds to Blackberry Maples Forest Preserve, which is it's west on Main Street, way at the edge of, I don't know if that's Elburn. It's past Batavia proper, but Batavia Main Street. If you head west, Batavia Maples is before you get to Route 47. It's pretty dark out there. There were so many other people hoping to catch a glimpse of this amazing celestial event. Nobody there seemed to be having any luck either, but it made for some fun conversations because we were all in the same boat. But yeah, easily, I don't know, 10, 12 cars. It was hard to see because it was dark. But maybe where you were, maybe you followed the guidance sooner, maybe you were able to get some cool shots. I'm hoping that maybe it'll happen again. I can try another night. This was a little visitor that I chased down the hallway because I was so excited. These little guys are fast. This is an Eastern Parsons spider. We've talked about these guys before. They're named for this white marking on their back. It's supposed to resemble the collar of a parson or an old-time preacher. The chase started in the bathroom and went down the hallway, and then I was able to get this piece of paper in front of it, and it ran up, and then thankfully it just froze for a minute. This is a smaller one than what I'm accustomed to seeing. I've seen a couple of larger ones, like in the bedroom and in the spare bedroom. This one, so I'm hoping, we've got a nice reproductive population. It's always good to have some spiders working for you to eat some of the other things that you don't want to have to deal with in your house, whether it's carpenter ants or things that silverfish, that sort of thing. These are the types of creatures that you'd like to have on your household staff. Now, that is supposedly they do have mouth parts that can break the skin, but they have what's called a not medically significant venom. So they should. I didn't test it. I didn't want to give it, but it really did not act aggressively towards me at all. It froze there on the paper. I put it down. It ran into the turtle's room, which is what you see there in the background. That's where Artie hangs out. He's got a screen door there, so I can keep an eye on him. But hopefully this little spider is doing its job now there in Artie's room. So this was a nice lead in. I saw this. I follow Insects and Spiders of Illinois on Facebook, and Sarah Rose, his contributor, who is always, who people turn to when they want to learn, what a spider is. Well, turns out she has published a field guide, The Spiders of North America. And I've got Spiders of Illinois. I've got another, I think it's like the top 100 spider species of the United States, something like that. But what I absolutely loved about this book, and what caused me to order it almost immediately, was the style of writing that's used. This is, it's got really helpful information, but it is not at all technical. Well, what it is, like, she'll use technical information like body part names and things like that, which that's like one of the biggest barriers I face when I go to try and identify an insect. I don't know the names of all the parts, so I'm always flipping back and forth between the key for the insects and the glossary that explains what these things are. But here, Sarah, if there is a technical term, she will often put it in parentheses or put it separated by commas. She also has this little lesson in how to use a dichotomous key, but instead of starting right off with spiders, she starts off with M&Ms, Hershey's Kisses, Starlight Mints, peanut butter cups, Skittles, and gummy bears. And so then you look, is it covered in a hard shell? If so, you go to number 2. If it's not covered in a hard shell, you go to number 3. And it's a way, like here, if you go down, if it's not covered in a hard shell and it's neither hard nor mint flavored, then you go down here, and is it chewy, somewhat soft and fruit flavored, it's a gummy bear. But if it's not chewy, firm but not soft, and not fruit flavored, that's going to take you down here. And if it's solid chocolate, it's a Hershey's Kiss. And if it's got a peanut butter core, it's a Reese's Cup. So she this is the tone of the whole book as you go farther through it. And this was just part of a preview online before I hit the buy this button. Let's zoom in here. So she does a little bit of like I've always used King Philip came over for good spaghetti, but she actually starts with domain and says, do kindly place candy out for good students. So another little memory trick to keep our taxonomic steps in mind. But so, you know, even arthropoda, she says, which roughly translates to jointed foot. So she just explains so well throughout this, like chelicerae are appendages on the anterior of the prosoma, each of which is composed of a basal segment and a fang. So she explains as we go through it. So I'm super excited. I ordered it over the weekend. I don't have it yet, but I will be sure and give you a little flip through if and when it does arrive. Now this was a little friend I saw on a walk. This was on Sunday. I don't think we need the sound for this. It was just traffic noise, but this was a huge bumblebee. I think this, oh, there it goes. You know, bumbles we're used to seeing flying, but this one I think was gathering, I don't know if it was things to take into the nest. The nest is probably somewhere in the ground. I wasn't able to follow it for very long to see what it was up to, but at first I was afraid it was injured, but when I reached out for it, it did fly away a little bit. So it's busy times there on the woodland floor. And then we have these inchworms, which this was like the 3rd or 4th one I've seen, and they've all looked really similar. So but I don't know, they're not really big enough to be a mature caterpillar is kind of an oxymoron because they're immature butterflies and moths. But don't have an ID for you, but what I did want to point out is why they're called inchworms. So these sorts of caterpillars, instead of having, they'll have their 6 legs up by the front of their head. Those are the legs they're going to retain into adulthood. But then back here, caterpillars will usually have several pairs of what are called prolegs, kind of like sticky, almost like Velcro-y types of hairy feet that they will use to help secure themselves on leaves and on branches. And so when they move, they have that characteristic inchwormy sort of movement. Whoop, there it goes. And it's going to try and find another spot where it can anchor with its, and then it pulls its body along. So just a couple prolegs, so 2 pairs of prolegs in the back, which is fewer than we usually see, and then the 6 legs up front. If I figure out what these are, because like I said, I have seen several, so there's clearly something that's going to be big later in the summer, flying around as an adult. I think these probably turn into a type of moth, but I still need to figure that out. Geometer is the family name, and geometer is, reference to how they measure out their steps. So if I can figure out what it is, I'll let you know. If not, it's just kind of cool to watch. Yeah, what else do we have? So there were a couple of these at Casa Auto. This was this last? I just been last night. And I had heard, so some of my friends that were out looking at the Northern Lights the other night said that they saw lightning bugs. And I was astounded because here we are, it's not even the middle of May yet. And usually lightning bugs are an end of June phenomenon, maybe around the solstice, but oftentimes after. I always use July 4th as a marker that we should definitely be seeing them by the 4th of July. But in Big Rock and out in Kendall County, there were Big Rock in King County and then Kendall County, people were seeing lightning bugs flashing. So when I first looked at this, I thought, oh, well, the lightning bugs are out here too, but then let's look a little closer. These aren't lightning bugs at all. This is a type of soldier beetle. Couldn't find a common name for it. Podobrus flavicolus, just kind of butchered that. There was this individual. Look at these long antennae. Look at where the head is. Here's its thorax. Here's its wings. This poor little one, I don't know what happened, but it had a bad entrance to its adult phase. So they're beetles. So they start off as a larva and they go through a pupal phase. Something happened and its wings just kind of, they were all ruffled. They weren't torn. They were just curly. So maybe it eclosed or came out of its pupal stage in a cramped area or something. But I don't know if we had like a Mr. and a Mrs. or if these guys were both here. Soldier beetles are they will take nectar and pollen, but they will also feed on other insects. So I don't know if they were at the porch light there to meet each other or if they were looking for something to eat, or maybe both. Maybe they were on a dinner date. I don't know. But I wanted to show you, just for comparison's sake, why these are not lightning bugs. One, they weren't lighting up, so that was a big clue. But here, this is a lightning bug that I took its picture at Primrose Farm a couple of years ago. So lightning bugs have this, it's called a pronotum, and it's like a shield that kind of covers the head. It covers the thorax. It's a lot of times you have trouble seeing the head because of this part of the body here. And with these soldier beetles, all we see is the thorax. There's no protective shield. Another big difference are these long antennae, which we see here and here, but we don't really see here. They're not super short like we see on flies, but they're not nearly as long as what we see on these guys. This goes all the way down the body, to the back legs. And not so with these guys. Then there's also, I threw this one in too, because here we can get a really good look at how the pronotum covers the head. The head is still there, but it's underneath. You can't see it at all. This is a diurnal firefly or diurnal lightning bug. We got, I think, 3 different genera of these guys in our area. We'll actually be seeing them pretty soon. I usually associate them with June. They're oftentimes found on goldenrod. So I don't know, I'm sure there's a connection these insects have with that. I just haven't read about it, haven't been able to figure it out yet. But if you have a porch light and you're seeing what looks like lightning bugs, but they're not lighting up, you found yourself a springtime soldier beetle. As we get into later summer, there's lots of different types of soldier beetles. We'll probably be taking a look at some that we see later in the season too that have actually a reverse color scheme. Instead of dark wing covers and a little bit of orange here, they're mostly orange with a little bit of dark up by the head. So variations on the theme amongst these beetles. This was another character that was there. There were actually two of these as well. This is a green lacewing. I only did it to family because there's a lot of different types of lacewings, and I wasn't sure. Chrysopidae is the family name. I'm not exactly sure what kind we're looking at here, but this is another interesting bug that will feed on, as an adult, they will feed on nectar, but then they can also catch insects, particularly soft-bodied insects like aphids. So a handy bug to have around. Not sure how to tell the males from the females, but like I mentioned, there were two there by the light. So maybe they were also on a dinner date, maybe finding some soft-bodied insects to feed on, and maybe finding each other too. I don't know. I didn't ask questions, but very pretty insect, and very different as an adult than as immature. Let me zoom in here. This was from actually like 6 feet from where I took that picture of the adult. This was on my deck last summer. Look at the boy, I thought I could zoom in farther than this. I brought this in from the pictures that are on my computer. These are the mouth parts here. You can, maybe if you squint, you can see them. They look like kind of like big fangs or tongs. That's another sign that they're predators in this life stage as well. So lacewings, very helpful to have around, and they're pretty cool looking too, aren't they? Both as a bambino and as a grown-up. I think we got just one more here. Yeah, so we talked about this, I think it was just last week. This is the cocoon that was formed by the large green caterpillar. Oh, I should have put its picture in as well. We last fall found a polyphemus caterpillar over at Bakerfield Park, and I put it in my lunch sack, and it overnight formed this chrysalis. I put some leaves in there too. So there's leaves, there's silk. This is part of the paper bag that my lunch was in. When you put something like that down on the ground, this was all part of the leave the leaves message that we have been trying to get out there. If you leave the leaves, all kinds of magical things can happen. Remember how I said I would give you an update on this cocoon? Well, look at this. Look who popped out. This was, I checked it Saturday, kind of late morning, no movement. What I was noticing, so I was picking up the chrysalis, the cocoon every day. In fact, a little side note, I had a question come to me last night of what's the difference between a chrysalis and a cocoon. A chrysalis usually is associated with butterflies, but it's formed when the caterpillar molts or sheds its skin one last time. It forms a shell that the larvae can then develop, pupate, and come out as a butterfly. A cocoon usually involves silk, and sometimes that silk then other materials like leaves are incorporated into it, and that's usually the work of a moth. And that's what we see here. So this is a polyphemus moth, adult. And the cocoon spent the winter in my garage in a fruit jar that I had replaced. Instead of a solid lid, I'd put just actually a paper towel that I screwed on with the ring onto the top of the canning jar. I left it in the garage. When I brought it out, when was it? A little over a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. You could hear the little pupa inside rattling, and my first thought was, oh no, it dried out. It's not going to make it. But I didn't want to give up on it right away, so I brought it out, and we've talked about this a lot too, how important humidity is for insects. And so this is actually a tank that has several, I mentioned those guys too a few weeks ago, the beetle grubs, that are on the process of pupating into adult beetles. Thankfully, they didn't come out while this guy is in there, because I don't know that they would get along very well. But every day I would pick up and just kind of gently shake the cocoon, and I could feel the what sounded at first like a little bean. It got less and less rattly, so I got more and more hopeful. And I checked it Saturday, it was still a cocoon. I checked it Sunday, and here it is. This is the polyphemus moth, and we can tell. Let's see if we can zoom in here. This is a male. This was a kind of a goofy angle. I didn't want to disturb it too much. In fact, it kind of flicked its wings at me a couple times, like, leave me alone. You can see here, in fact, these eye spots on the hind wings. Those are supposed to be very scary. So when it was sitting undisturbed, the forewings here will cover those up. And a lot of times, actually, they will fold their wings up together. But when it's feeling threatened, those scary eye spots come out. This moth presented me with a little bit of a quandary because I found it on Sunday, and I wanted to make sure that I could take some pictures of it. I looked at the forecast too, and we had the rain coming in. I made the decision, and in fact, as we speak, the moth is still in this tank. It's going to be chilly again tonight, but I think tomorrow will be a good time to let it go. Now, I did a little bit of poking around there. Find anything you want on the internet. There are giant silk moth forums where people who raise Polyphemus, Luna, Prometheus, what am I forgetting? The bread one. Sometimes it's called the robin moth, Cecropia. People who specialize in raising these, they say if you have a female and you want to attract a male in, put her in an open type cage so her pheromones can waft out, and then you can capture the male, put them together, they'll fertilize their eggs, you'll get caterpillars, and away you go. With a male, they say it's best to just release them in the evening, or actually after dark. It's specified after dark, and then they will go off and find a female. So I'm not too worried about having to feed this moth. They don't eat at this stage. They did all their eating as caterpillars. I can't really see too much of this. Again, not a great picture, but he's got some eyes here, but it's these feathery antennae that are equipped with the sensory organs that are necessary to sense the pheromones, so that he can find himself a beautiful Mrs. Moth, and they can bring us more Polyphemus. So my plan is to take him back to the park where we found him. That was Bakerfield Park. And hopefully he'll find some friends, and we'll find more caterpillars there later in the summer. Yay. All right, folks, let's see. With that, let's stop the share. And see, chats, got a couple of chats here. Oh, it's got 7 chats. So let's see. Yes, it's the Northern Lights. And oh, Jim and Diane pointed out that wild turkeys do daycare too. Yeah, I guess it's must be a pretty successful strategy that birds can employ, especially those birds that are known to have large broods. I would imagine it would get kind of hectic, caring for them on your own. So why not send them to daycare for a while. Yeah, the white walnuts, Jerry, they are my white whale. They're my Moby Dick. They are continuing to haunt me. I can't remember. I may have mentioned this to you. I did plant one and it did grow, and I put it out in the yard and the bunnies mowed it down. I dug it up. I put it back in the garage for the winter. I think it's dead. It's not doing anything. So I'm actually on the lookout for another one, an intact nut that maybe I can try one more time to get something growing. Because if it's this prolific, because usually butternuts, they're subject to that. I think the canker. It's a disease that typically kills the tree before they reach the age of 20. So the fact that this thing is able to taunt me year after year means, one, that it's healthy, and two, maybe its offspring would be too. So yeah, it's really getting to me. I'm gonna have to see if we can find this tree this year. Let's see, where was the Baltimore Oriole found? Jerry, you might want to take this. This was, oh, you already did. You guys are so far ahead of me. So yeah, Jerry lives in the city. So LaBaugh Woods, which is, you see that place mentioned quite a bit. It's got quite a bit of diversity. That's where that rare hummingbird showed up.
Yeah, you should have seen the birders. You would have done some bird watcher watching.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah, it's I love it.
It's a great spot.
So someday I'll get there. And Meredith, you tried, you kind of saw, yeah, I was, really kind of trying to see things that weren't there with those Northern Lights. Yeah, hopefully we'll get another storm like that and be able to make some use of it. Yeah, it really is a beautiful moth, and I'm hoping that it can find. I was actually kind of torn too, taking it back. Though one of the reasons I picked that caterpillar up, that Polyphemus caterpillar up last fall, was the park was undergoing a lot of renovation, so there was all kinds of traffic. I didn't want the little thing to get squished. It was actually coming down its tree. It was on a little oak tree. And they do that when they're going to pupate. They go down and they get themselves in the leaves and they make that cocoon. I thought for sure it was going to get squished. The work now, we're pretty much done. I don't think there's, other than the mowers that come every week, I don't think there's any real danger there. And if there was one Polyphemus, there's got to be more. So my other thought was, do I take it out to Hickory Knolls? But that just seemed too, heavy-handed too. I wanted to put it back where I got it in hopes that it can bring us more moths in the future. Folks, that's what we had tonight. A lot of spring happenings. We are forecasted to be back up in the 80s again this weekend. So again, if you're in the area, your soil should be warming up. There is a chance maybe that you'll see some cicadas. I would love to hear from you if you are. And again, if you want the cicada cookbook, just let me know. All right. Everybody, have a great rest of your evening, great rest of your week, and see you back here next Tuesday. All right.
Thank you, Pam.
Everybody.
Thanks, Pam.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Pam.
Take care.
Thanks, Pam.
Bye.
Thanks.